guest today is an extraordinary individual, renowned as a dynamic speaker, therapist, coach, and podcaster, with a wealth of expertise in burnout prevention and recovery, as well as mindset work. She has made a profound impact in transforming the lives of countless individuals. Friends, would you help me please welcome our very special guest, Catherine Moore. Catherine, thank you for coming to Circles. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah, you're welcome. How did I do on the intro? Was it okay?
It was great. Yeah, it was great. You definitely found my intro.
I definitely found it. Yeah, I'm scrolling through lines and lines on my computer going, okay, it's in here somewhere. So thank you for your patience with me. Well, listen, you and I have had a couple of chances to chat. We got a couple of chances to get to know one another before coming on. I wondered if you'd help me do us a favor and just kind of unpack yourself a little bit, your story, maybe some of the highs and lows and what took you and led you into this work on burnout. Could you do that for us?
Yes, definitely, of course. So my name is Catherine Moore, and I am born and raised in Southern California. And I have been a licensed social worker for a couple years now. I've been working with people primarily in the social work settings as far as like medical places, like within hospice and hospitals and things like that. So I really become a specialist in anxiety management and grief and loss over the years. And so that's where my specialty comes from. And then my passion for burnout is actually a personal experience. And so a little bit, kind of about when I was working. So I was going through college and grad school, and, they would occasionally mention burnout, because in a environment where you're exposed to a lot of very difficult situations, constant stress, and a constant feeling of like everything is kind of always a crisis, right? And there's a lot of work settings that are like this, where we can be in there and everything feels like a crisis and this ongoing stress. And so if you're in that environment, it's very high risk for burnout. And I always just kind of thought, that's for other people. That's never going to happen to me because I have my stuff down and I'm different and I love my work. So I don't even have to worry about this. Well, there came a point where I was about 3 years out of college and I was working full time in my career, and my life situation had changed. And I had become a mom, I was a wife, I had all of these different responsibilities that I was balancing. And I was trying to do it all as I had once done, right? So I was trying to work as if I didn't have a kid. I was trying to raise my kid and do all the mom things that I saw on Pinterest as if I didn't have to work full time. And so I'm trying to do all these things, and it worked for a little bit. However, it just got to the point where I started getting in trouble at work. And it got to the point where I was getting pulled in by my boss about not getting my work done on time, which was not like me. So I was I just thought she was being ridiculous and I didn't want to hear it. I just thought she was just, I don't know, trying to get on my nerves or something. And so she would call me and oh, okay, you're not working, you're not getting your work done on time. And then next it was, well, you're being kind of short with people and it's coming off a little rude, in your emails and your communications. And I'm hearing this from different people. And I'm thinking again, I'm like, oh my gosh, lady, come on. I'm just trying to do my job. I'm sorry I'm not so warm and fluffy like you want me to be, right? But I'm just trying to get my work done. And that's essentially how I was doing everything in life. And I was just trying to get it done. So I wasn't really enjoying anything. I wasn't really feeling happy. I was just trying to get from one thing to another, just to get things off of my to-do list. And it just felt like I was just stuck in this never-ending cycle of stress and not being able to catch up. And I didn't know how to get unstuck from this. And it came to the point where one day on it must have been a Tuesday evening, I was washing my dishes at home. It was after dinner and I'm doing the dishes and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, my house is a wreck. There's so many dishes. The kitchen's a mess. I gotta, put my kid in the bath and read her bedtime stories and then put her to sleep. And then I still have to do my notes and catch up on all the work that I hadn't done and get 8 hours of sleep because there's a big meeting in the morning and I got to prepare for the meeting and I haven't been sleeping. So like, I really got to get some sleep in and I have 3 hours to do this. And I'm, thinking all these things, like, it just doesn't sound possible. And my husband, he's so sweet. He kind of sees me, stressed out, and he sees the changes that are going on. And he says, honey, why don't you come over and hang out and we can watch a movie tonight and relax. And oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed to say, but I lost my mind. I'm like, how can you think I have time to watch a movie? I have all of these things to do. And I started bawling, like ugly crying, bawling over the dishes. And, Jeff, it was in that moment that I realized, okay, this is not right. There is something wrong. This is not a normal response to getting an invitation to watch a movie. And I'm thinking, like, who am I? What happened here? I used to love watching movies and relaxing, and now it brings me to tears. And so that was the moment that I realized, something has to change.
Yeah. Wow. Anybody else can relate to Catherine's story already? And anybody in the house? I love it. So let me unpack this a little bit. So this is just kind of like you've reached your final straw, right?
Yes.
One of the things you said, Catherine, that struck me was when we get to that anger place or that short retort, just demeaning kind of energy towards someone else that asks us to do anything, that's a real good sign that we're burnt out. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Being irritable, being really quick to anger, all of those things are red flags for you.
Yeah. Now, while we're on this topic of these signs or symptoms of burnout, do you have a few in your arsenal that you could share with us? Others that we could start to look for that show up and so that we can identify it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, when my boss was talking to me and pulling me in, reflecting back, I realized she was pointing out a personality change. And so it's important to know that it can get to the point where we just start identifying as this person, right? That's irritable, that you're constantly tired, you're just exhausted, and or maybe you're not really focused on what's going on because you're always thinking about the next thing. The other clue or red flag might be that you're just feeling very kind of negative and cynical, and you're not empathetic anymore, meaning like, oh gosh, here comes another client with another problem, get in line, that you've just lost that empathy for people. And by not being present, by not really focusing, you become less productive. And so you'll find that you have to repeat things or fix mistakes that you've made. And this is just not efficient. And this, is further leads to you falling behind. And then it can even get to the point where you start to doubt yourself. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Am I even being effective? And the other, kind of social cue is that you start withdrawing from other people, that you're just so exhausted from the week. And you think, oh, I just don't have the energy to go out and have fun. Even things you used to like to do, like watch movies or go for a walk or whatever it might be. But you start to withdraw and kind of isolate yourself. Maybe you're all you want to do is stay in bed all day because you're tired on Saturday. And then Sunday, you're like, I got to go to work tomorrow. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
And then there are physical signs, which these physical signs are often the ones that lead us to the doctor and prompt us to get help. So things like new headaches, migraines, heart problems. You can even have upset stomach problems. You can have, weight gains or weight loss. And it can even, for people identifying as women, it can do menstrual cycle problems, leading to problems getting pregnant. And you have a decreased sex drive, so there's more problems getting pregnant. And also too, just your immunity is going to be less efficient. So you're going to get sick more, and you're going to have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. So those are just some of the physical and kind of like social things that you're going to notice with burnout.
Yeah, wow, friends. Thank you, Catherine. I love the definitions. I love the descriptions. Friends, those of you that are listening, you're in the house today. Put a 1 in the chat if you feel that you are currently experiencing some level of burnout, any level of burnout that you could identify with what Catherine's already shared with us. Just drop a 1 in the chat for us, and let's see who in the house is maybe dealing with some burnout right now. The idea for that, Catherine, of course, is for us to be able to go through some things today, learn some techniques today to reduce that burnout. So maybe we can re-poll our group today and see if anybody's feeling better at the end. So do me a favor, drop in the chat a 1 if you resonate with that. I think the stress is probably huge for me, Catherine. It is that feeling of, oh my God, if you do not get out of my face right now, I don't know what I'm going to do. And normally that energy, that wouldn't be there. I'm a very calm and loving person. Now, I wondered if you have had this happen in your experience with burnout. So you had mentioned hospice and kind of medical work. I've been in the hospice and palliative care, was in that industry for like 20 plus years. And, you know, I'm preaching to the choir here, but caring for people is an extraneous job, right? It's emotionally heavy. So I remember I get a call at the end of the day to go visit somebody, and I was a mess. I didn't want to, you know, I'm frustrated with the guys on the road, or the drivers on the road. And so I'm irritable all the way there. But watch this. Once I get there and get invited into the home, there's another part of me that takes over, that compassionate, caring, loving, serving, giving one. He all of a sudden comes to the forefront when he's called upon in that moment. Does that make sense? He almost overrides the burnout. But I'm telling you, when I walk out that door and get back into the car as just Jeff, not the chaplain or the counselor or the whatever, then that stress comes flying right back on me. Does that make sense at all? Can you help me understand that? Help us understand that a little bit? What's going on in us when that happens?
Oh, yeah, of course, because you are operating in, you know, when you're stepping into that moment or into that work with the people that need you, you're able to set a boundary. And a lot of people are not able to do this. It takes practice to set an emotional boundary between your stuff and their stuff. So you're able to tuck your stuff away for the time being and focus on them, which is great. That's what we all have to learn how to do. But when you leave, all of those things come back. So that boundary goes down, your irritability comes back. And what you have essentially done is just added on to this stress that you carry around with you, right? So when you're working in high stress environments, you can put it away for a couple moments, but then that work, it adds more weight to you. And if you don't have ways to release the weight, to get that off of your shoulders, to get it out of your body, because stress is literally carried in our muscles, in our body, in our nervous system. If we don't have ways to release it, to get it out of there, then we literally carry it around with us. And that's why it causes all of these physical health problems over time that can lead you to the hospital.
Yeah. I wonder, friends, if you could do me a favor also in the chat, put in there where your stress shows up. Is it in irritability? Is it in a tenseness in your neck? Just do us a favor. I'd love to see what your thoughts are and where you identify that's coming from. You said something else, Catherine, that really struck me. And that is you said that when we're in that burnout situation, we almost identify as that person. It's almost the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of theory, right? So you actually take on that role of that irritable person. And that's a dangerous place to think that that's me, right?
Right.
I would kind of almost want to, I think I've been in denial sometimes, Catherine, because well, that's not me. And then the other side of me should be asking, then, if it's not you, Jeff, why are you acting that way?
Yep.
Why are you biting your wife's head off? Why are you yelling at the kids? Why are you kicking the dog? Pardon me, I didn't kick my dog. It's just an expression. But why are you doing all these things if you're not that person? And that's a hard thing to handle, my friend, because that makes us go inward. And I don't know about you. Do you ever deal with any shame or guilt or my God, you should be better than this and you should be able to handle this when you're at those burnout stages? Have you experienced that?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, all the
Yeah.
time. And I think, in addition to all of those thoughts, I would think, what is wrong with me? Because everyone else at my job seems to be doing fine. There's other moms here and there's other people doing the exact same job that I'm doing, and they don't seem to be, maybe I just can't handle it. Maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Or on the other end, because you and I are talking about kind of looking inward and being like, why is this happening? A lot of times the other response is to blame everybody else. Well, I wouldn't be so irritable if my boss wasn't getting on me about my work, right? or
Yes.
or if my wife just wasn't so annoying. I don't know what she does, but she's just annoying, you know? Um, Instead of being able to look inward and be like, well, what is going on? So in my story, for example, when I started crying, I could have just said, it's everybody else. Everybody else is giving me too much pressure. However, my response was, whatever I'm doing is not working anymore, and I need to make changes, right? So I took on that responsibility to say, what is it that I can control right now? And looking at that, and that's key to anxiety management, right? It's key to freeing your mind up, to finding peace and calm, because while we can do everything, we can't do everything at once. And it's really important to be able to prioritize those things.
Wow. I think you need to dive deeper into that for us. Can you take us on a little bit of a journey? What does that look like practically to us when we're in that heightened moment of burnout or stress? What are some things that we could actually do at that moment, Catherine?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So first, I need you to just pause and really just be honest with yourself about what's going on. How are you feeling? What are the changes that you've noticed? How is this stress impacting your health, how you're feeling, your relationships, your work, your relationships with people at work, right? So all of these different things, your physical health, and also prioritize, like, what is most important to you? And this is the first thing, like I did this that night, like the night I was crying. I went to my desk or table, whatever, and I just wrote down my values and my priorities and what is most important. Why am I living? Why am I working my butt off every single day? And for me, it was, I mean, in no particular order, right? Well, I ordered it, but whatever. The common ones are, physical health, mental health, family, faith, freedom, money, finances, careers. So all of those are kind of like common values. And or rank your values and see, like, what is most important to you, and is your agenda, is your time being reflected in what's most important? And for me in that moment, all of my time and all of my energy was only work, right? Like I had isolated myself to the point that all I did was work. Didn't spend time with my family, wasn't building relationships, wasn't having fun, wasn't taking care of my physical health, right? And so I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? And that's why you feel so off balance, because you are. Because what you want to be your priority is no longer, it's kind of shifted, and it happens to all of us. That's okay. But it's important to kind of get yourself back on track, so that if faith and your physical health and your family is important to you, also, you have to make time for that, and you have to reserve some energy to do those things. And then you will start to feel a lot more imbalanced.
Yeah. I love it. You make me think. In my coaching practice, I take people through the wheel of life. Yes,
Exactly.
that exercise of making, and that's what you're teaching us, those points in our life that we really want to focus on. I wonder if I could back up a half a second, because you were telling your story when you got to that point of breaking down and crying. Can you think back on that moment Catherine, and see when you were in that burnout, irritable, it's the boss's fault, and all of that energy going through you to the crying. What snapped? What broke or pierced the veil, so to speak, of that irritable energy to, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. You know what I mean? You know what I'm asking? Can you
Yeah.
explain that a little bit?
Yeah. For me, it was the realization that I wasn't spending time with my family. I wasn't really present, and they're one of my top priorities. They're why I work, right? So I could go and have fun with the family. And that wasn't happening. It was to the point where I couldn't even, sit for 2 hours and watch a movie with my husband. And if I can't do that, then what is the point? Like, why am I killing myself to work so that I could be miserable? Like, it just didn't make sense to me anymore. And I knew that something had to change.
Yeah, I've been a student, I would call it a student of life for, 30 years of my 58, probably even more than that, Catherine. But what I've been able to identify is there's something interesting about energy. Energy meaning I'm stressed to the max, I'm irritated, I can drive down the road and everybody pisses me off, pardon me. It's just like I can't find a happy person in the world. And then it dawned on me, Jeff, the reason you can't find a happy person in the world right now is because you're not happy. And
Yeah.
all the happy people live on the other side of you, that happy you. Has anybody else in the house ever experienced it? When you're unhappy, it looks like the whole freaking world's unhappy. Is that, help me a little bit with that, Catherine? It may be a little bit off topic, but I think that's interesting. Is that a law of attraction kind of thing going on, an energetic thing that we actually see the world through the energy we're experiencing at that time?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's our own
Yeah.
filter. So we go out with this irritated, angry energy, and that's what we're projecting onto other people, and people pick up on that, right? Like, oh, grumpy at the grocery store, like, oh, well, look at you. Who do you think you are? Right? We're
Yeah.
grumpy, like driving, like flipping the bird, like, hey, get out of here, as opposed to if we have a happy energy, like, oh, I can see that you're in a hurry. Like if we're driving, like I can see you're in a hurry, like, come on in, or at the grocery store, like, you only have two things, come on in, it's okay. But you give off it's just basic how we work, right? So if you're familiar with like the cognitive model, right? So our feelings impact our actions, and then this is related to our thoughts, right? So like,
Yes. Yes.
I think I mixed up there, but like our feelings, right? So we're feeling irritated because we're thinking some thoughts, right? Like, my boss is such a jerk. And then that's going to cause us to act in a different way. As opposed to if we change our thought, which is the easiest thing to do here in this cycle, if we change our thought, like, okay, my boss is just doing their job. What can I do so that this situation doesn't happen? So my boss doesn't yell at me, right? So that's changing the thought. And then that gives you more of a feeling of like curiosity. And from that point of curiosity, you're going to have a different action, a different response. And that cycle continues. So it's a cycle. And it when you're in that angry energy, you got to interrupt that cycle. And the easiest way to do that is either through your thinking or your actions.
Yeah. I love the word interrupt. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, because otherwise, if you don't interrupt the pattern, it's going to continue, right? It's going to keep going. And you could end up what was only supposed to be a moment of irritability. It could end up a whole day, a whole half a week, a week. It could drag on forever. And I think that I'm tying this right back into what you said about being an identity. It could perpetually lead us to believe that this is our identity. And that's when it
Mm-hmm.
becomes dangerous, when we think we might be this person. And I've always tried to say this to my clients and even myself: Jeff, this is not who you are. This is what you're experiencing,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And that helps us differentiate. Let's talk a little bit about burnout. What would your definition, if somebody said, Catherine, define burnout, what would your definition be of the word burnout?
Yeah. So it's not my definition, but it's the actual definition. It's a syndrome that results from chronic stress that has not been successfully managed. So this is an actual like medical syndrome that your doctor could diagnose you with. And it goes back to, we all experience stress, but how are we, again, like getting it out of our body, getting it out of our system, getting it away from us? There's so many different ways to do that. And there's not one, like, I'm not going to give you one quick fix, right? There's not, I mean, there's a pill for it, but I don't recommend that. Because the stress is always going to be there, right? So you have to, I think of medication specifically for stress as kind of like putting a Band-Aid on an infection. Like, okay, you're not going to see it, but it's still there. Like, it's still not a good thing. And as soon as you take the Band-Aid off, like, oh, you can see everything. So we really got to deal with, what's underneath and the effective ways of managing our bodies and our emotions. And there's so many different ways to do that. First, well, the first one that people just hate to hear me say, because they know it's true, is movement and exercise. Because like I said, that stress it's the brain releasing chemicals that get stored mostly in our hips and our shoulders. And that's why we experience tension in our shoulders and tension headaches and our hips, because a lot of times that we're like sitting a lot of these times and it just gets stored in there. So that's why it's so important to move and to move our bodies and like all of our bodies in different ways.
Yeah, gosh, movement is so huge. I remember in my own personal physical transformation journey, movement was huge for me. I did a lot of work at the desk. And then my only activity was playing golf. You would think that's a lot of activity, but you're really riding in a cart. You get out, swing a club, get back in the cart and ride, and then you drink beer afterward, right? So it's like it can't be that productive. But I remember walking up on the green one time, and I had to lean on my putter, Catherine. I was so out of breath. And at the age I was, I'm going, this is not healthy. And I'll never forget, I was driving up the road to the Starbucks, the one I went to every morning. And as I looked out my window that morning, early in the morning, there was a gentleman who was jogging up the same hill that I was driving my car. And he had a clubbed foot on the right side. So he was kind of limping and hobbing up this hill. And then on top of that, he had to be 65, 70 years old. And I don't know, my friend, I just looked at myself as a mirror. It was kind of like a slow-mo thing. I'm looking out the window at him. I'm looking at myself in the mirror and go, Jeff, you got to change. And I did. The next morning, I just, this thing came on me and I put shoes on, sweats on, and I went out the door. And 3 years, 9 months and 7 days, I dropped 78 pounds, was in the greatest shape of my life. And I got hooked on activity. I got hooked on moving my body, working out in the gym and doing those things. But, and it definitely helped. And I'd always said during that time, I was glad that I didn't turn to alcohol or to drugs during that time, because I could have probably wrecked my entire life because I was so desperate to feel differently. And a lot of people do. That's those moments where we just want this pain to go away. So we turn to substances sometimes to make that pain go away. Right.
It's a distraction and gets our mind off of it. And it's a Band-Aid too, puts a Band-Aid on the infection. We got to deal with what's really going on underneath. And I know in the chat, there's people talking about physical pain, which is excruciating. I mean, it's really, really, it's stressful, right? There's a lot going on there. So if physical movement is not an option for you, no worries. There is still a lot of other things that are good for our bodies and our mental health that really help to reduce the stress. And if it's okay, I'd kind of like to just kind of do a brief overview, and then we can kind of dive into some of them if people want to hear more about, any one of them. Is that okay?
I would love that. Go for it. Absolutely. Okay. By the way, my chat for some reason has shut down, so I can't see what you're seeing. So I apologize for the technical on my side, but lead the way. Please take us there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So in addition to physical movement, moving your body, there's also, you can practice having positive relationships, so having a community of people, a tribe of people that are good for you. So we don't want those energy sucking people. We want those people who are going to feed into us and to support us and to really be there, that friendship or the partnership that is really positive and makes us feel good, uplifted after we are around that person or talk to that person. The other one, and as I'm going through these lists, these can be combined, right? So it's possible to do more than one of these at the same time. So it's not like, individual, but they can be combined. And you may need different things at different times. And then each one of these may work differently for different people. So having a tribe, that's just a human nature of us, having people around us. Laughing is a major stress relief. It makes us feel good. It gets into the nervous system. Practicing affection with other people. So not just romantic affection, while that's great, but even like giving hugs or handshakes. If you're feeling comfortable with that, hugging is a really great way to relieve stress too. Ugly crying, which I talked about earlier, but a lot of times people can be scared to cry because they feel like if they start, they're just never going to stop. And that is not true. You will stop. And the body is extremely resilient in that when you start crying, it recognizes that something's wrong and it brings up your endorphins. It brings them all up to help comfort your nervous system. So you really don't cry that long. I mean, this might be different if you're grieving the loss of a loved one. So you could probably cry for a long time with that one. But if it's like life stressors and you just feel so frustrated that you could cry, that is okay. That releases stress too. Another one is artistic expression. And this can be in any form, whether you want to sing at the top of your lungs, you want to draw, you want to paint, you want to do ceramics, you want to, whatever it might be for you is some sort of expression. Also too, when you do intentional breathing and mindfulness. And this is really a powerful combination. And I do this with every single one of my therapy clients. And it's really about being present in the moment. So anxiety and stress can take us out of this moment, right? So if you're listening to me right now and you find your brain like thinking about all the things you got to do, like, oh, what time is it? All right, we got 20 minutes left. What do I have to do after this? My grocery list, right? But bringing it back to the present moment, it's okay to notice those thoughts and say, oh, I got distracted. Let me refocus back on here. And this is really training the brain to be focused and to enjoy the moment and to make the most of each moment, because so many times, even when things are good, like anxiety, I always use anxiety as like, it's that annoying neighbor that just comes and they're like knocking on your door and they're always trying to like steal your joy and annoy you, right? But by doing mindfulness, you train yourself to kind of close that door. Don't let them just barge in. You close that door and you're in control of your thoughts and of your feelings. And it's so powerful when you're able to practice that. And then the last one that I have here is, or the last couple ones really, is having self-compassion and talking to yourself in a compassionate way as you would a friend going through the same situation. And excuse me. And last is, therapy. If you feel like you just need extra support, somebody to talk to, somebody to kind of help you sort out your thoughts and feelings, that's okay. You can go to therapy as well.
Yeah, I love it. I was keeping up with you, my friend, and I dropped in the chat all 8 of them. Have a tribe, experience laughing or practice laughing, practice affection, which I love. I love ugly crying. Number 4, artistic expression, intentional breathing and mindfulness, have self-compassion, and therapy. I absolutely love it. By the way, can you see my chat that I just put those in there, by the way?
Yes.
Catherine, just a technical question. Perfect. Then That's great. As long as you all can see it, I love it. Hey, friends.
And you forgot exercise.
Oh, and I forgot exercise. All right. I'm adding a 9, and it is called exercise. I love it. Burnout. It's really interesting. It's common, I think. Now, before we get to a few questions, and friends, I want you to, if you have a comment, a question, something that you would like to ask Catherine, a guest, please get ready to do that. And then we're just going to use our app, use the hand on the app to raise your hand, and then I'll be able to call on you. But I would be curious to know, is burnout something that we can actually overcome and we can put it behind us? Or do you think it's something that always comes up? We have to make lifestyle changes all the time. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it will always come up until you make lifestyle changes and until you're able to really have those personal boundaries for yourself to say like, nope, I am, this is my time to, like someone said in the chat, Myra said in the chat, this is my time to play viola, I'm guessing violin, and sing, right? So, every Saturday morning I am singing and playing my violin. I'm not doing whatever it is, So just, that's an example of just setting that boundary and making your self-care a priority, right? Because that after you play your violin and sing, your energy is going to be so much more elevated. And if you don't do these things that are good for you, good for your soul, then your energy is continue to be low. So if you continue to do all the things that add to your stress, right? Overwork yourself, have poor boundaries, say yes to everything, don't make yourself a priority, then you're going to continue to experience burnout. And I hate to say it, but you will likely just put yourself in the hospital until you can learn how to do these things and realize that you deserve these things. Like, you don't need to, earn these things, right? Just as a human, this is how we're designed to be, right? And a lot of times I found with people who put others before themselves on a consistent basis to the point that it harms them, a lot of times we grew up in that type of environment where we had to put others first. We didn't get a chance to be a kid and to really think about, like, how do I feel about this? Like, what do I like to do? But instead, we might have been in a situation where maybe we had to pay extra attention to our caregiver, to our parents or grandmother, whoever raised us. Like, oh, are they okay? Do I need to take care of them? Do I need to take care of my siblings? Like, it doesn't matter how I feel because I have to take care of everybody else first for my survival. And so sometimes that could be where this learned behavior comes from, is like, as children, we learn it. And like I mentioned therapy, like going to therapy can kind of help you unpack, like, why do I do these things?
Yeah. I love therapy. I mean, I grew up in an area where therapy was for sick people, right, Catherine? And it was a very much of a stigma. I grew up, my mother, who, God rest her soul, but dealt with mental challenges all of her life. And I grew up in a Midwestern, very conservative area that made us feel like there was something wrong with us. We were less than if we needed mental health support, which I'm so happy to be alive in an era where society, that ideology is changing, that therapy is welcomed. A therapist, it used to be everyone needs a good banker, a good lawyer, and a good priest. Now you add a therapist to that list, right?
Yep.
Right, Catherine, because you need one of those as well. I love it. Hey, I'm enjoying our conversation. It looks like our crowd is too. We got a couple of questions. Let me transition and open the mic. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, let's open it.
Super cool. Hey, Myra, it's so good to have you here in this class. I see your hand.
Hi,
Unmute
Jeff.
yourself, and I love you. Thank you for being here.
I love you too. Yeah. Hey,
Go ahead. It's all you.
Yeah, I just got excited when I talked about how playing music and singing is my antidepressant of choice. And it's so true. And I'm on a crusade right now to get people over 50 to take up an instrument because it can help you with your moods. Yes, it's a good way to get rid of depression, but also it keeps those synapses firing in the brain for, making new pathways, neural pathways or whatever. I'm not a neurologist, but you know what I mean. So
it's so true. It's good for us to learn new skills, and it's never too late. Like, you are never too old to do anything. But like you said, Myra, when we're able to use our brain in different ways, it helps to prevent I've even heard it like prevents depression, right? Because you're continuing to use
Yeah.
those brain cells and keep yourself active, and it
Yeah.
distracts you from whatever is stressing you out in that moment.
And you use both sides of your brain, your left and right
Mm-hmm.
lobe. So yeah,
Yeah.
I could go on and on and on and on about that, the benefits of music. Great list too, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do
Yep.
too.
Oh,
I,
you're welcome. Okay.
I
Bye.
love it. Thank you, Myra. Yeah, Myra plays in an orchestra. She travels in a band. Myra is was in one of my other groups that I led. She's a beautiful soul, so I'm so glad she participated tonight. And the challenge is on, my friends. Myra threw it out there. I want you to do me a favor. Go out and learn an instrument. And when you do, come circle back to myself or to Myra and say, hey, I learned how to play the guitar today. Hey, I learned how to play the piano today. So let's throw that challenge down. Thank you for being here, my friend. Meg, I see your hand. Come on, unmute yourself. You're live with Catherine and Jeff right here on Circles. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Catherine, for all of the great information today. And thank you, Jeff, for hosting this room. My question is related to unanticipated stress that actually may be correlated with basic human needs, whether that's food, shelter, maybe a natural disaster, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like we often know to an extent what our window of capacity is. But for example, I'm currently in the process of a move. It was unanticipated. There's deadlines involved. And so that being stacked with my other obligations, stress managers, like the exercise, spending time with loved ones. I'm not playing an instrument yet. I miss doing that as a child. That was a great outlet for me. But what would you suggest, Catherine, when things unexpectedly come up? That normally aren't adding to the burnout or adding to that stress, but it just becomes a little too much. What would you suggest for a short-term extenuating circumstance how to manage that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the two things that came to my mind first was one, your self-compassion and self-talk. Because and this is like when I mention this, it's when I'm talking about like when you're talking to yourself in your head as far as like, oh man, you should have done better, or you're such an idiot, you should have known better, or you should have done this differently, or like whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like we're so mean to ourselves, basically. So really pay attention. And if that is you, just like paying attention to what it is that you're saying to yourself and asking, okay, am I going to talk like this to a friend? If I'm not going to say this to a friend, I shouldn't be saying it to myself. So if it were my friend, what would I be saying? Like, okay, you're going to get through this. You have everything that you need, or you're going to figure it out. You've done hard things before. So those encouraging thoughts for yourself can be really, really powerful and help to at least keep you going. And the second one that came to mind is the mindfulness and the intentional breathing. And that's going to be vital. Like if you do nothing else, at least do this, where you just, you sit and you take in deep breaths. And just a kind of a quick overview is if you inhale for, say, a count of 4, right? Inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 6, and repeat this, like set a timer for like 3 minutes. And I promise you, like I would bet you $1,000. If you did this, inhale for 4, exhale for 6, very slowly, and you did this for 3 minutes, you will feel much, much better. Like your stress level will come down, your brain will be more focused, and you will feel more calm so that you can conquer the next thing and you can think more clearly.
Yeah. So beautiful. Okay. All right, Coach, here's what I'm going to have you do. Let's do a practical exercise. Lead us through that breathing. Can you do that? Everybody want to participate? Throw some hearts in the air. Let's all do it together. Guess what? You're a captive audience, so you get to follow along, right? You want to lead us in that, Catherine? Go ahead.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I want you to sit comfortably and just notice your breathing. And while you're there, put your hand on your heart and just feel your heart beating. If you are comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes And take a deep breath. Inhale for 4. Pause and exhale for 6. Pause. We're going to inhale for 4. Exhale for 6. Feel your heart beating. Inhale for 4. And as you inhale, try to inhale to your belly. And exhale, blow all the air out from your belly. Inhale for 4. Exhale, all the air from your belly. Inhale, and try to keep your thoughts focused on what we're doing, on your breath. Exhale. And really feeling the air go in. Inhale. And out. If your mind wanders, that's okay. Just bring it back to your breath. Inhale. And exhale. And we'll do this one more time. I want you to inhale. And exhale big. All the air from your belly. Breathe it all the way out. And refocus back on your hand on your heart. And just think of something that you're grateful for. One thing that you're grateful for, even if it is your heart is beating, that you're here with us, that you're hearing my voice right now, that you're in community. There are other people who love you and understand you and get you and want to support you. Feel your heart beating and know that as long as your heart is beating, you have purpose, you have love, you have happiness, you have joy. And that is it, my friend.
Wow.
So that was, I gypped you guys. That was about 2 minutes, but still effective.
Very, very effective. Anybody else in the house? I got some love in the air for that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Catherine. I love it. I love the fact that we can connect in Youth Ed Tribe community like this. Of course, that's what Circles is all about creating spaces like this with people who are going through similar life challenges can join together and find comfort. Anybody find some comfort today? Anybody in the house enjoy their time on the Circles app today? Yes. And I'm wondering, just by a show of, I can't see your chat, but I dropped in some links for Catherine. Please visit her website. She has some resources on her website that you can take advantage of. If you'd like to join her email list, please do so that you could receive information. Also, friends, if you are in that field, your company, you know of somebody that's looking for a guest speaker that specializes in burnout, stress management, those things that Catherine has shared with us today, do me a favor, make sure you reach out to her and let her know that. You can reach to me and I'll make sure she gets the information. We'd like to support her in that in any way we can. Gosh, I think we're well. I think on that note, I think we need to just bring our session to a close, Catherine. I so appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you for having me, Jeff, and I love the community that you are building. And I want to thank you as an audience member for being here, for participating, for asking questions, for engaging in the chat, because by doing so, this is how you begin to build your tribe, how you build community, by reaching out and being courageous and being a little bit vulnerable. It can be scary sometimes, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. So well said. All right, friends, Myra sharing her love and light to all. Thank you. I just saw that in the chat. That is going to bring our session to a close. My name is Jeff. I've been your host here on Circles. If you have gotten something out of today, would you do us a favor and please share your thoughts at the close of our meeting? You're going to have a chance to rate our room today. You're going to have a chance to share your thoughts. And if there are points that you're going to take with you, please share those in the comments section when we close our room. And then if you have a personal, hey, we enjoyed you, Catherine, make sure you give her some personal kudos because she's going to receive those from us at the close. And Catherine, I'm really hoping that we can have you come back and maybe do a part 2 for us if you would be open to doing that.
Oh, yeah, I would love that.
I love it. I love it. All right, my friends. Also, remember to check out Circle's Spotify. This session, it has been recorded. It will be replayed. It'll probably be live in the next couple of days, and you can check it out if you'd like to re-listen and relearn those steps and tricks that Catherine has shared with us about from burnout to balance. I don't know about anybody of you. Let's just drop this final thing in the chat. Did you reclaim some of your energy today? Drop a 1 in the chat if you reclaimed some of your energy today. I know I did. I came in with one bit of energy and I'm leaving with another. So, all right, the ones are falling into the chat. That's all the time we have, my friends. Catherine, again, thank you very much. Visit Catherine's website. We'll see you here again right on the Circles app. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.